I'll answer this question in two parts. My previous multifamily commercial real estate investing experience, I didn't have any. When I reached out to Joseph about the course, my experience was limited to I had read a few books, listened to a bunch of podcasts, but had never actually done any deals at that point. My investing experience, so I'm an MBA, CFA. So I've got a decent amount of investing experience on the equity side. I also own 2 rental properties, but obviously both of those are very different, particularly from an underwriting perspective from commercial multifamily real estate. But at least having that background enabled me to at least have some familiarity with how to pick through a financial model, some of the different kind of metrics, IRR and exit cap rate, things like that. But once again, no actual deal experience before I reached out to Joseph. Yeah, so like I said, when I was taking the course, I had just started kind of looking at different investments. So I looked at one right before and kind of right as the course started. Looked at another one during the course, and I'm looking at another one actually right now. I was literally working on the financial model about 5 minutes up into this phone call. But yeah, so no, really, I mean, I was brand new to looking at these deals when I took Joseph's course. To be honest, I didn't have any expectations. The course was recommended to me by a friend who has quite a bit more experience investing in multifamily than I do. Joseph came highly recommended. My friend also recommended that I take Joseph's course. He said, "You'll get a lot out of it. You're going to learn a bunch. Trust me, the guy's really good." I said, "Okay, sure, I'll take it." And I was not disappointed. When I was in grad school, so I did a small stint at an investment bank, and they use this. They have these courses called Training the Street, and they basically teach you how to pick through a financial model, and they go through line by line. Joseph's course reminded me a lot of that. I read a lot of books on multifamily investing, and I read a specific book on underwriting multifamily acquisitions. And first of all, the book was great. I had no problem with the book. But I think where Joseph's course really takes a departure from what you're going to see in other places is that, and I'm going to use this book as an example. The book is going to give you a general overview of underwriting multifamily acquisitions. It's going to talk about what is a loss to lease, what is a cap rate, what is I say exit multiple, but basically a reversion cap rate. It's going to talk about some sensitivity analysis, how to look at comparables. It's going to kind of give you a general overview, and that's super helpful. If that's the first book you pick up, you'll learn a ton. Where Joseph's course, in my mind, stands out is that Joseph picks through the P&L. Let's say he picks through. Joseph goes through the P&L line by line. And he's not only explaining what a loss to lease is, what is bad debt, what are concessions. He's not only explaining it, but he's telling you what's behind the numbers. And to me, that's where the value is, because what his course is going to allow you to do is ask more intelligent questions as a passive investor to the sponsor, because Joseph is going to show you the intuition and also show you a mathematical way to sanity check each line of the P&L. That's what I loved about it. To me, that's the value. Because now I have a mathematical model that I can use to sanity check the sponsor's pro forma to see if those numbers make sense, and I can ask an intelligent question as to why they don't. Because I know I have the intuition of kind of how those numbers should look and how they should flow and grow, etc., because I've taken Joseph's class. To me, that's really what stood out and where I feel you're not going to get anywhere else. I mean, one of the things I'll say is that In addition to Joseph showing you a mathematical, very logical way to sanity check each of the lines of the P&L, as I think most passive investors don't even know what to look for in the pro forma. So, for example, a lot of times you'll get gross potential rents and then economic vacancy without all of the pieces that make up economic vacancy, your loss to lease, your vacancy, et cetera, et cetera. So now, as a passive investor, I can ask those questions. Well, what about loss to lease? Why didn't you break that out? Before, I wouldn't even have known to ask for it. I just said, okay, this is your economic vacancy, fine. So I think for me, it's really helped, like I said, just to ask more intelligent questions, because no book I read has gone through it in that level of detail, for sure. So after taking Joseph's class, I now have the ability to build my own adjusted pro forma and ask questions to the sponsor. And it's good because I can see things that I wouldn't have been able to see before, but it's bad because, for example, a deal that I'm looking at now, the sponsor is going to get 2 pages of questions, really deep dive questions. And some sponsors probably aren't going to be too happy with the email that they get from me, but I mean, like, it is what it is, right? I can ask those questions now, so I'm going to. I invested in a deal while I was taking Joseph's course, right at the beginning. So that's fine, it's done. I'm currently looking at investing in a deal. I need to get the feedback to the sponsor today. Depending on their answers to my 2 pages of questions, I may or may not invest in this deal. I don't know. So we will see after today if the sponsor can or wants to answer all of the questions that I have. I don't know if I'm far enough along on the journey yet to really have that. And so, like I said, my multifamily journey really started this summer, in the summer of 2021 with Joseph. And so I'm still very much on the beginning of that journey. I'm trying to get into different deals, but as I'm sure you know, that just takes time. And so I think let's have this chat again in a year or maybe 2, and I'll probably have a little bit better answer for this question. Okay, what surprised me was the level of detail that Joseph went into. As I mentioned before, he picked through each line of the P&L and showed you not only how to sanity check it, but really taught you the intuition behind how to build up the numbers that should go in that line of the P&L. That level of detail surprised me. I wasn't expecting that, because I want to say what Joseph does differently, what this course offers, is that if you think about the detail that he goes into, you're never going to get that from anyone. And it's not because other sponsors aren't willing to teach you that. I think because it requires a big investment of time, not only on your part, but also the sponsor's part. And so no matter what book you read, no matter what podcast you listen to, they're just not going to get into that level of detail. Now, I think what Joseph's course does is, I'm guessing that if you were to do a mentorship program, pay tens of thousands of dollars, you're going to get hands-on experience, and you'll probably get into this level of detail. At least I would hope you would. But for the passive investor that doesn't want to do that or doesn't have time to do that because they're a passive investor, this course, I think, is a good middle of the road. You can get that insight of how not only a sponsor looks at a deal, but a good sponsor looks at a deal. But you don't have to have the full mentorship program with all of the other bells and whistles that come with it, because maybe you just don't have time to do that because you got a W-2 job at the same time. So I think that's what surprised me. And my guess is this course will really meet a sweet spot for a lot of passive investors. because they're going to get more than they would elsewhere, but not more than they need. There's two things that I would say to anyone considering taking this course. First of all, it requires a time commitment. Now, let me be specific. When I say time commitment, it doesn't mean a huge time commitment, but more than a couple of hours. So if you're trying to keep it high level, this course probably isn't for you. The other thing I would say is, if you as a passive investor truly want to understand what's behind the numbers when looking at a sponsor pro forma, this course is for you. And I think anyone investing their money, no matter how busy you are with your W-2 job, you need to have this level of understanding. As a passive investor, I think it's foolish not to take advantage of every opportunity to learn about the investment that you're putting your money in. And I think it'd be foolish not to take advantage of this course. Maybe just a personal message to Joseph. I just want to say thank you. Not only for the course, I found the course extremely helpful, but also just a thank you to him. I probably called Joseph outside of the course 4 to 5 times, and I was very appreciative of how willing he was to share additional information. He even helped me pick through the financial model that I had built based off of his course, gave me a few tips and pointers. So I was very appreciative for that. So just a thanks for his willingness to be open and take his time. I know he's a busy guy. I definitely have met with other sponsors that aren't as giving with their time. So that was something that I really appreciated. And Joseph, I've got some money earmarked for you, man. So let me know when you get another deal.